My name is Jasmine Jones, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and you're now watching Black Girl, a Therapist in the Wild. And it's a little show I like to call Therapist Sips and Reviews. And today we are reviewing Beloved, 1998. This is a little 90s rewind version of Therapist Sips and Reviews. And we are drinking on Kahlua and Kahlua, yes. How you doing? So, I obviously dissociated when I first saw this movie because I did not know that I feel traumatized. No, because let me explain. When I first watched this movie, I was like 11, 1998. That was after 1997. I was born in 1987, so I was 11. So I went to the movies with my mom and my grandmother. This was a big event. I can count on like one hand how many times my grandmother came to the movies with us, because it was me and my mom thing. Like me and my mom would go to the movies all the time. She taught me how to movie hop, and we would just watch movie after movie. And then sometimes she would just drop me off at the movies, and I would just movie hop all day. The movies in the library. She would either drop me off at the library, and I would be at the library for hours reading books, or I would be at the movies. And that was my babysitter when I was like late elementary into middle school. And so like this was an event. Like I was just like, why is Nana coming to the movies? I think the only other time I remember her coming to the movies, it was her, my mom, my aunt, and I think one of my cousins, my aunt's daughter. And we were watching Independence Day. That's the only other time I remember being at the movies with my grandmother. So this was an event. So I was just like, why is she coming to the movies? I was not a Toni Morrison reader when I was that age. I was reading like mystery books and romance novels. I don't even think I had started reading like fantasy and sci-fi books like I do right now. So I hadn't read this book. I vaguely knew who Toni Morrison was. I didn't know what this movie was about. I thought it was just black people, slavery movie, whatever, nigga. And so I remember being in the movie theater. I don't remember none of these horrible parts. I think my brain blocked a lot of shit. And no one explained anything to me. I just remember them looking upset afterwards. So I thought they didn't like the movie. I think they were just traumatized too at this point. Because I went into this thinking like, oh, this was a movie that I thought was funny when I was a kid. And literally, before watching this again, because the last time I watched it was when I was 11. So don't come for me. I literally thought this movie was about some weird light-skinned bitch that was up in their house screaming and yelling and causing problems. She fucked her nigga. Something to do with slavery, and she killed her kids. That was the pieces that my brain could understand, and that's what it pieced together. So I was literally in the movie theater in shock. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't even know that these were her kids, that these two girls in her house were her kids. I just kept asking, thinking in my head, who are these people? Why did this bitch disappear on the steps at the end of the movie? Like, what? And no one explained anything to me as a kid. I didn't ask questions. No one explained anything to me. I was just like, oh, well, it was funny. And that's how I dealt with that. Yeah. So watching it again and seeing all the parts that I blocked out mentally, now I'm just kind of like, oh, God. And someone commented on the last video talking about, oh, like, I'm excited for you to watch this. And like, sometimes we laugh as a trauma response and stuff. And I'm excited to see how you found this funny. And I was just like, what is she talking about? The trauma response. This is a movie. Like this, the light-skinned bitch was up here naked and screaming. You didn't see it. It was funny. Now I'm like, oh, yeah. I couldn't, the metaphors, like I had to look shit up to understand what the meanings were. Like when when the ghost daughter showed up and this bitch went and pissed a stream of piss and shit. Apparently it was triggering her past. That's what Google said. Apparently it was triggering her past trauma from slavery and her body and her baby and killing her baby, and her body had like a visceral reaction, and that's why she peed on herself. None of that was explained in the movie. All I saw as 11-year-old was this bitch running, seeing this girl snoring and sounding like a fucking frog on a tree, and then she run off and pee a stream of torrent of piss into the ground. And I was just sitting here like, why is she peeing on herself? Did she have to go? Wow, she really had to go and shit. Oh God. So like, don't come for me because I was laughing at this. Don't cover me. Don't cover me. I saw this one time in a movie theater when I was 11 and I didn't comprehend what was going on. And my adult brain, after having not seen it since I was 11, still has that image, has had that image in my brain of, I don't know what the fuck this movie's about since then, and have not read that book at all, beloved. I've read some other Toni Morrison books. Her writing is very flowery and flowy, and then she throw in like some old timey like Southern slavery talk in there, and so like I have to reread in order to understand what's going on in her book. So a lot of times I put the book down. A lot of her books I have just put down because I got tired of rereading to try to comprehend what the fuck these people are saying. So I'm not saying like this is a good movie, but I hate it and I'm never watching it again. But it's a good movie. Like, I'm never watching this movie again, and I feel appalled and upset because I wanted to watch something that made me laugh as a child, and now I'm like, what the fuck was I laughing at? What the fuck was I laughing at? That shit. By the end of the movie, even Tandy Newton, I was just like, if you don't get this thing, bitch, get this thing. I didn't refer to her as a her anymore. I was just like an it. Look at that thing. Look at it just sitting there. Get this thing out of her fucking house. Just a parasite. That thing was a demon. See, that's why I said in the last video, I don't fuck with the dead. I don't fuck with the dead. They don't belong here. Once it's done, and you'll be at rest and at peace. Like, it's cool if you want to contact your ancestors. For me, this is the type of shit I imagine if I were to contact my ancestors. You just pull them back down into a realm that they're not supposed to be in anymore, and then they just slowly start to deteriorate into demons. Because they're not supposed to be here anymore. It's supposed to be at rest. I honor and thank all the things that they did for me as living. But no, you need to be up there in heaven. You need to be up there. Like, I imagine heaven just like that movie with Robin Williams. I love this movie. It's called What Dreams May Come. And he died, his whole family died, but the way they depicted heaven as this place where it's a bunch of different dimensions for each person, and you can just create a heaven. Wherever you want in your heaven, you can have in your heaven. And he created like this painting that used to be in his doctor's office and shit like that. And like, it was magical, and I was just like, that's heaven. And why would I ever want to come back down to this place? If I could create a heaven and just have what the fuck I want. You could go visit other people in their heavens, like the dimensions are neighbors to each other and shit. And ever since I saw that movie, I was just like, you know what? This is what heaven's supposed to be like. Why would you want to come back down here? Even at the end, they got to choose if they wanted to be reincarnated and fall in love all over again, like the two parents and stuff that died, him and his wife. They chose to be reincarnated and experience, like, you already had each other up here. Why do you need to? You see, we in World War III. Why do you need to come back down here? But they're white people, you know, they experienced life different from mine, where it was probably very fruitful and wonderful and great for them. And of course they would probably want to come. I am not dragging my black ancestors, my few Native American ancestors back down into this bitch. I'm not, why? For what? See, anyways, let's get into it. So don't come for me if I laugh or chuckle or whatever. Just like that I said trauma response, because I feel traumatized. And I am never watching this movie again. This is all you getting out of me from this movie. I'm never watching this again. So anyways, we got the movie starts off with, and it just starts off with some shit. I imagine myself at 11 years old seeing this, and a dog is being thrown around the living room, and I'm just sitting here like, why is the dog being thrown around the living room? No one's explaining anything. They're just sitting there enthralled. I'm just like, oh, I thought this was a slavery movie. Why is a dog being thrown around the living room? So that's how the movie starts off. And these little boys are running out the house. They're like little teenagers situations, and they leaving. These two little boys are leaving, right? 11-year-old, I had no idea that all of these were her kids. I didn't know who them little boys were, but now I know those were her sons, and they were leaving because they were tired of her maintaining this ghost in her house while she has got the dog and got him on a table and is putting his eyeball back in his head. Like, imagine 11 years old. Like, this is how a movie starts, and no one's explaining anything, and I'm just like, is the dog dead? Like, and then the dog gets up and starts moving around like it's fine. And I'm just like, it's fine. It's okay. The dog is fine. Okay. So I'm glad the dog's okay. Still don't know what's going on. So apparently this is the ghost of her child that she killed. We're just gonna go straight into it. We're not gonna blow by blow all the way up into the point where we describe her killing her child. No, she kills her child because, and I understand. Like, you gotta imagine this is a time where there's no therapy. Nobody knows nothing about mental health. They just know that these things that happen to them linger inside of them and cause them to crash out and shit. They just know, they know trauma, but they ain't got words to describe the trauma psychologically. So they just kind of, metaphorically are describing these feelings that are left behind inside of them from the horrificness of slavery. And so, like, her two sons leave and never to be seen again. As far as we know, who knows, maybe in the dimension of Beloved, because I always say each piece of media could possibly be its own dimension, and this could be an ongoing story in another dimension. So in the dimension of Beloved, they might have came back one day. Who knows? They might have came. I think this happened in a span of like maybe 6 months to a year. It looks like they didn't age that much, so they might come back one day, maybe. All over the place. No, because I'm bothered. This upset me. So anyways, like, she has another daughter who stays behind and is there living in the house with the ghost, right? So fast forward like 8 years and some shit. So the daughter's now like, I think 18 or some shit. And she's still living in the house with her mom and this ghost. And, Seth, Oprah's character, is just like coddling the fact that there's a ghost in the house. Just like, and then we pan to Danny Glover, Paul D, that's his name, coming down the street, coming down the road. He's all dusty and homelessly looking. And look here, I'm not saying that Danny Glover is unattractive. I'm just saying that he's unattractive to me. And the amount of times that he was kissing up on and then he was naked, like, you got to take a shot every single time. Like, it was gross. I was not here to see Danny Glover. Like, he looked old to me when I was young. He looks old to me now. Like, it's like, what's that nigga that did the voice of God and everybody says has looked old ever since forever? Morgan Freeman. So it's like seeing Morgan Freeman kissing up on somebody and then you get to see his whole naked ass. I don't want to see Morgan Freeman kissing up on nobody. I don't want to see Morgan Freeman's whole naked ass. So every time they showed this nigga, they was fucking, and I just was disgusted. I felt, and then for him to come and show up at her house, like, apparently he's from the plantation that she's from, and he's been just wandering around, doing odd jobs, trying to just embrace being free and just dissociating from his past. I think he calls it putting it in like a tin box. So he puts all of his emotions into a little metaphorical tin box in the back of his mind and acts like none of that shit ever affected him. Really, that's not reality, but whatever, boo, whatever helps you get through the day. There was no therapist and nothing, no knowledge of mental health. I have to give it to you. As long as you're not harming yourself or other people, do what you do. Anyway, so he strolls up to her house and asks if he can stay. talking about I want to raise a family with you and all this other stuff, which I think he was true intentions and shit, and they end up fucking. But first she introduces him to her daughter, which at first, because I remember him fucking the little ghost girl, right? So I had no recollection of how the fucking happened. So I felt like I had thought he initiated it. Did I think she raped him or some shit? I don't know if that's how it went in the book, but in the movie it looked like she put him in a trance and she raped him. He turned away from her. He didn't want to touch her, and so that's what I feel in my spirit, that he was raped, and that's so sad. So I didn't know like how this interaction with her and her little daughter named Denver was gonna go. And so like Denver's really quiet, and then Denver, while he's there, has this like crash out moment because like the ghost starts moving around. As soon as he walks into the house, everything turns red, and apparently like red is supposed to represent like passion and like death and like strong emotions and all this other stuff in her books and stuff. So that's why it was red every time that like the ghost would be all overwhelmed and shit, right? So he walks in the house, everything turns red, and then he sees like this image through the cracking door that's going back and forth of blood and death, and he don't know what it is, and he was looking at her like, what the fuck is this? And she's just like, she's not mad, she's just scared. And I'm just, bitch. But like the horrors of the shit that she went through with no therapy and no knowledge of mental health, I don't even know how she's still standing the shit she been through. So I had to give it to her, like the crash out, the catatonia, the being in bed all day, the hanging on to this dead child like this. I couldn't even be like, oh well, there is no you should what? How you gonna get over it and nobody taught you how to? She's been through the bowels of hell, the most horrific shit ever in the world. I had to give her crash out. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it was horrible, and I really wanted her to get that bitch out her house and let that bitch go. But you know what? She had to work through that process and hit rock bottom and figure it the fuck out. Like, and I'm glad Jesus has put me in a world where we know a little bit more about mental health, and also a world with running water, flushing toilets, and showers, because the way these folks was sitting up here looking like they ain't bathed, and it wasn't even her. Like, no, it was her when she started crashing out, and that girl was messing up her house. So we're not bathing, in certain, but that was mental health not bathing. That wasn't a choice. I really hope we wasn't sitting up here in slavery times just like free people and just not bathing like the white people. I really hope not. Who knows but no, here comes his ass looking dusty and dirty into her house, talking about her little ghost and all this other stuff. And then he meets Denver, and Denver has this little crash out moment after the ghost starts moving shit around the house. I'm like, I can't handle it, mama. Denver has like some kind of minor agoraphobia, like she's scared to leave the house because like the people in town knows that she killed her baby. Like, it was in the newspaper and shit. So now they're a pariah. At first, I forgot that she killed her baby. I thought that she was a pariah because there was ghosts in the house. But no, she's a pariah in the town because she killed her baby. And so like Denver don't even want to go outside. Like, she stopped going to school, everything, because people were talking shit and she couldn't handle it, and she didn't want to have people staring at her and all sorts of shit, right? So like she's quiet at first and then just goes off to her room because she don't even know this nigga like is weird, and she just goes off to her room, right? And then they go and they fuck, and I was just like, every time he seen him, he liked her though. That's so beautiful that they found love. No, it's like watching Morgan Freeman fuck somebody. Like, No, it wasn't even Oprah, because Oprah her skin was glistening. She was looking all pretty and shit, glowy and shit. Her hair was pretty and shit. I was just like, it wasn't even Oprah. It was like this nigga was over here looking like dirt and dust and talking about I ain't been, I ain't stopped walking since I left the plantation. So I was just like, so you just came right out of the street, ain't bathed, looking dirty, and stuck your dirty penis inside her. Okay. So they got together. You'll be looking at this like, what the fuck is No, I had an epiphany today. I was shocked and appalled by things in this movie and that I did not remember, and I'm still upset about. So, anyways, like he's like there, and I think he's trying to talk to her in the kitchen and all this other stuff. And she's talking about like how she escaped the plantation because they were supposed to meet up with her at some point in her escape, and they didn't meet up with her at the spot. So she went back into the barn to see where they were at, and the plantation masters bitches caught her, and she was pregnant with Denver, right? But she still had milk from the other baby, Beloved, right? And so these nasty motherfuckers, 11 years old. I would have been fine if I had an explanation of what was going on. Because my mom let me watch whatever I wanted to watch. And usually we would talk about it, but I don't, this, like, they held this bitch down, and these two white motherfuckers was sucking the milk out of her titties, right? And they showed it and everything, and I like slavery was horrible. Like they was horrible. Like shit, I'm a soft bitch. Like I would not have survived. I would have killed myself. I know. If you ever send me back in time and make me be a slave, I would not live through it. I would not. I'm not gonna deal with this. You're not gonna control me, bitch. And so, like, some way, somehow, she escapes from that and runs off with her baby, and she gets away, right? And so she's telling him how nobody met up with her, and she had to do that all by herself. And he's talking about how he was moved from plantation to plantation until he was finally free and all this other shit, right? So they talking about that, and then like they out in the cornfield or whatever, and he's talking about how he wants to stay and how he wants to see if they could build a little family situation and all this other shit, right? And so like she was like, I'll think about it and shit. And while he's there like trying to touch on her, like the ghost is acting up. The ghost is like jealous and shit. Like I think the ghost was jealous of the fact that like her brothers had her mom's attention. The sister was there. She was jealous of the sister being there. She just wanted her mom's attention, right? And so like the ghost is like acting up, right? But then the ghost gets quiet. So one night Oprah's talking to Denver in the bed, and she's like, you know, the ghost has been quiet and shit, and what do you think about Paul D staying and da 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 da? And then Denver's like, well, I don't know if the ghost is gone. I think that she plotting and planning some shit, right? So the next day, Paul D takes them to the carnival with, you know, $2, and apparently each penny you can buy some shit with, right? Because back in the day, but you see, people be talking like back in the day, it didn't cost it, but you wasn't getting paid that much either. So like, yeah, $1 could stretch a minute, but like it took you 3 months to make $1. So it's still the same thing that we experience today, love. Like I don't. Like it's still they're paying pennies on the dollar to these people. So right. And so anyways, while they're at the carnival, we pan over to the swamps, and apparently like here come the ghost girl Beloved coming up out the swamp water. Imagine me 11 years old watching this. Nobody's explaining anything. I had no fucking idea who this bitch was. I know there are certain points within this movie where they explain certain things, but like I don't know if I dissociated as they were talking or whatever, but it wasn't. I just got lost in the sauce. I didn't know who this bitch was, so don't come at me and be like, well, bitch, I was 11 and they was sucking on this bitch titties and shit in one scene, and then in the next scene there's Danny Glover's ass. Like I don't know what to tell you. I wasn't listening to what they were saying. So don't come for me and be like, oh, well, they said that it was a go. I don't care. I wasn't listening. I was trying to figure out like why were they sucking? I was still on. Why were they sucking on her titties? Why was there milk coming out? Why did nobody do nothing? Like, did she want that to happen? Like, watching this girl come out the swamp covered in bugs, and I'm just like, well, who is this? And so she's covered in like ladybugs, and she got on this black dress and shit, and she leaned up against this tree snoring and sound like a fucking frog and shit. And apparently the ladybugs, like, I looked it up, in like transition and stuff, and showing you how she's between the living and the dead, and that's what it's supposed to symbolize, or some shit like that, right? And then like the way she talks all disjointedly is supposed to show like everything she does is supposed to represent the trauma of slavery, basically, and how slavery is just horrific and horrible and evil, and she is the physical representation of that, right? And how it lingers and sticks around and stays in you and shit. And so she comes up out the swamp, falls asleep on a tree, and then goes up to their house and falls asleep on a tree stump in front of their house, right? So they coming back from the little carnival situation, they see her laying there on a tree stump, right? They're like, who is this? And then Oprah go and just pisses this storm of piss. Reminds me, 11 years old, just watching this. It's like, why is she peeing on her? She must have really had to go pee. So I looked it up, because we didn't have Google in 1998, love. Like, there were no cell phones that, you know, had a screen that you can Google something in 1998. So I couldn't immediately understand why this was happening, right? So I looked it up, and apparently she was having a visceral reaction in her nervous system from all the slavery trauma, and from like killing her baby and then having a baby and all that other shit, and it represented in her peeing this river of piss into the ground randomly. Yes. Imagine no one explaining that to you, though, and you just sitting there just like, she had to pee really bad. That's crazy. They even explain it in the book. Let me know who read the book. Does they explain why she peed like that in the book? Because I'm just sitting here like, you know what? Whatever. No, I'm upset. And so anyway, she comes back. She still doesn't recognize that this is her daughter, like her dead daughter, right? So she brings this girl in the house, because, you know, back then it was like, we take care of our own. This child seems like she's a bit delayed and she needs some help and shit. So she brings the girl into her house. Danny Glover is like kind of off this bitch. He's just like can sense that something's wrong with this bitch. But Denver and Oprah are just like, no, we need to take care of her, we need to love on her. Denver kind of sort of immediately knows that this is her sister, right? And Denver been looking for a friend anyways, because she got agoraphobia and been trapped in the house. Slight agoraphobia, because she was still able to go to the carnival with Oprah and Danny Glover and shit, you know? So like, you know, she's excited to have a little friend, and I think she kind of knows this is her sister, her dead sister or whatever. So she go in the house, and she take her in the house to help her, and she in there sleeping and all this other stuff. And so the next morning, like when Danny Glover and Oprah go to work, Denver in there trying to help Beloved like situate herself. She pees on herself in the bed and shit. Like when I was a kid, like I thought I think I knew, like, did I know that this was her child? Or did I think she had like a delay or some shit? I don't know, because I don't think I registered that she was a ghost. I might have thought she had a delay, because I remember specifically at the end when she disappeared, I didn't know what the fuck was happening. So I thought she had like some type of delay or some shit, and she was peeing on herself and talking funny, and I was just like, look at her, she got some shit going on. And so like she peed on herself. So Denver over here just happily cleaning the pissy sheets and shit and playing with her and having fun little teenager time and shit with her and stuff like that. And they're having a good old time, right? So Danny Glover and Oprah get back, right? And, you know, I'm going to just say their real names. That might switch in their character names at some point. I don't fucking know. It's Oprah and Danny Glover. They get back, right? And Danny Glover is suspicious of this bitch. He don't trust her. They at the dinner table, and he just looking at her. This bitch asking everybody questions about themselves. Who are your people? Where you come from? Who your mom is? and want to know everything, but then she don't want to say nothing about herself, talking about I don't remember, I don't know where I came from. And then Danny Glover start questioning her, and then she start crying and shit, and then Denver take her out the room, and then Oprah mad. No, then she throw up on the floor, she start crying and throw. And I feel like that was just a manipulation tactic to get him to stop asking her questions. I really do. I don't care. She's not stupid. And so Oprah mad at him, talking about, why you badgering her? Why you badgering her? And he's just like, you don't think this is weird? Who is this? I know why she needs you, but why are you so up on her and shit? So what's going on is that Setha is over here like still addicted to her traumas and the fact that her baby is dead and the fact that she killed her baby. And you know what? Like in the last movie, I was like, this bitch is addicted to death. And she don't feel like she can be loved by anybody else but her mom, and that's why she, Talk to Me, that was the last movie, and she don't feel like she can be loved by anybody else but her mom, and she don't know how to love herself and shit like that. But she's living in a world where there's therapy and there's psychology, and people are taught to read things and understand stuff, and she could have got the help she needed. Seth over here in 18 whatever the fuck, before Freud even, she doing the best she can with what she got. There's no information out there for what she going through. Yes, people are telling her that she needs to let this shit go and live her life and be free, but you know what, she ain't gonna do that until some shit happens, and she didn't end up doing that till some shit happened. And so it is what it is. If you ain't got the information, I'm gonna give you the leeway to be like as crash outy as you possibly can. It's fine because you don't have the information. You ain't out here serial killing. There's a limit, of course. You ain't out here serial killing. You ain't raping nobody. You ain't touching the babies and shit. She just stuck on the fact that she murdered her child so that child wouldn't be sentenced to slavery. So you know what? Let her crash out. It is what it is. If people end up leaving her, and she end up alone and miserable and sad and shit with this child, that's what I thought was gonna happen, because I forgot the end of this bitch. So all I remember was she was standing in the doorway naked with her whole bush out and shit. I forgot that the church lady Avengers and shit came and made this bitch disappear off the porch. So I was just like, oh, they gonna leave her, she gonna be by herself and shit. Like, it is what it is. So you still gonna have consequences, but if she ain't ready to heal, she ain't ready to heal, and she ain't got the information to heal properly. So she's just doing the best she can do, y'all. Like, I can't be mad at it. This is 18 whatever the fuck. Slavery is still probably happening, and so she's doing the best she can do with what she got. And your little child come back to life when you going through it already, you gonna hold on to that for dear life just because you think that's where the healing is. It's not. That's a demon, girl. That is a demon. You are addicted to death. I don't care if that little girl was a demon. She was. Even at the end of Sister Denver, like when Paul D came back to town, was talking about he was talking about, do you really think that was your sister? And she was like, some days I do, and some days I think she was more than that. And I'm like, yeah, she was a demon. She didn't need to be here. She turned into some other shit. She didn't need to be here. But anyway, so she's taking care of this little girl in the house, and Denver and Beloved are upstairs one day talking, and Beloved asked Denver how she was born in the boat, right? And so Denver tells her how her mom was escaping the plantation in the woods, and her feet was all fucked up, and this random ass hillbilly white lady found her, calling her all sorts of niggers and shit, but she helped her. So you know what it is, I don't know what to tell you. And she birthed the baby for her, and then this raft came along and took her to the other side with this black man who helped her get to the other side of the river, and she got into the house where her sweet sugar, her baby daddy's mom lived. No, that was her husband. They got married, so her husband's mom. And she lived with her, and her husband's mom was like the neighborhood preacher prophetess lady, and she would have these revivals in the woods and shit, talking about love your skin. And kiss your skin and love yourself and fuck these white people and you gotta love yourself. And she would have had the kids jumping and laughing and the men dancing and just praising and worshiping and being proud to be black. It was magical. That woman was a magical woman. And it was just in the middle of the woods doing that. It was magical. It was a magical experience. I wish the whole movie was just that, not the rest of whatever the fuck that shit was. Oh Lord, I don't know where Toni Morrison was at when she wrote that, but that was some bullshit. All of it, I didn't like it. Oh, I mean, the storyline, the plot, it was good. It was too much for me. I'm never watching that shit again. No, after them two white motherfuckers was sucking the milk out of her titties and I was done. I wanted to turn this shit off. I wanted to turn this shit off. I was like, what's going on? Wait a minute. And it is what it is. So she tells her that story. And then Denver's like, don't tell mom who you are. She's not ready for that yet. And then Beloved goes the fuck off. She's like, don't tell me what to do. Oh, the way Teddy News played this part, I was just like, girl, what was you doing? Who are you mimicking? Like, what did you have to, like, how people be like, they play a bartender, so they go and like, they bartend for a little bit to get the feeling of the role and shit. Like, where'd you go to get the feeling of the role to play this part? Because it was just so realistic. It was so realistic. And I was just like, girl. That was a sign to let you know that some shit is wrong with this girl. And Denver just sitting there. Denver be dissociating and going inside of herself just like her mama do. Because like when Oprah was telling her story earlier about like how them niggas was sucking on her titties and shit. Like, I'm always going to go back to that because I was traumatized. She was dissociating and talking all monotone voice and shit. Like, that's what Denver be doing and shit. But Denver just be silent and be having these silent tears come down her eyes and shit like that, right? And so she didn't want to talk to this bitch no more. And this bitch made her talk to her again. Like, she kept looking away from the bitch. The bitch was like, oh, tell me more about the da-da-da. And I was just like, oh, she got some shit going on and she don't give a fuck. I was just like, maybe because she died as a baby, so she's babyish or some shit. But then I looked it up and it was all like, she represents the disjointed traumas and she's slowly getting her memories back. So like, every time she gets her memories back, like that's when she starts to like act a certain way and da 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 da, and she's more and more traumatized in slavery. And I just, girl, I can't even say it right. I'm fucked up, right? I didn't want to see no shit like this. Why did I remember them parts of the movies? No, because when you realize something traumatized you, it's fucked up. So, anyways, So like, what happened next? Oh, so at some point, Denver and whatchamacallit, Beloved is outside in the fields playing around or some shit. And like, Beloved runs back to the house, right? But while they were outside, here we go, Danny Glover just naked ass everywhere. I was, why we gotta see that? Like, you know what? Whatever, nigga. And he kissing on Oprah and shit. And I was just like, yep, there they go, fucking around again. That's beautiful. They love each other. It's so magical. And so she runs into the house and she doesn't see them fucking, but she's standing in the hallway and she hears the water splashing because he was in the bathtub taking a bath. Finally, yes, God, I'm glad they showed him bathing himself, cleaning his body. I didn't want to see his body, but like, at least we know he bathes. And so she hears the water splashing and all this other stuff. And she came out of the water, and I don't know if the water means transition or whatever, but she feeling the type of way, right? But I think she know they fucking. And then she runs back out to where Denver is by the water, and then they're watching like two turtles fuck, and so this makes her feel a type of way inside her vagina. So that night at dinner, she's just like this, staring at Danny Glover, and Danny Glover just looking at her, and then he just goes to sleep. And then like Danny Glover is waking up in different parts of the house and not sure why that's happening. So one day he ends up sleeping in the shed, like going out of the house. He fucks Oprah first, and then he goes out the house and sleeps in the shed, right? And like, here come this bitch in the shed. Oh God. She said, I think so. I think this is initiated because she's jealous of the attention that Oprah gives him. She wants her all of her mom's attention. She's a demon. She wants all of her mom's attention, right? And she mad that she's giving him all this attention. So now she's also curious about sex, and maybe this is from like slavery trauma and being, how they raped us and shit in slavery. I don't know. It's a mix of a bunch of shit from what I read. But anyways, she's standing there in front of him, and he's like laying there, and he's like, "Why are you in here?" And she's like, "I want you to touch me on the inside part and call my name." And this nigga's like, "These people gave you a good home to be in. Why would I do that to you? Go back to your bed and go to sleep." And then she opens her shit up, and the biggest bush I've ever seen just is right in his face. And he just says, "Go back to sleep." And he turns over towards the wall and is like, it's a clear no. He don't want this bitch. Earlier in the movie, he was saying that she's super strong, right? And he saw her like throw like a crib or some shit up against the wall. And like Oprah didn't want to believe him, right? So I really do believe that she's super, because she turned this nigga over and started hunching on this motherfucker. He's just laying there, and then he starts saying red heart, red heart. And like, what did it say? Because I had to look it up. I was like, what do you mean red heart? What is that? Is that like red? What, red rum is murder. It's just murder backwards. That's not anything deep or but I looked it up, and it was saying, what was it saying? Let me see. Okay, he said, in Toni Morrison's Beloved, the red heart is a symbol representing Paul D's repressed emotions and the intense feelings he tries to repress due to his past trauma as a slave. It's connected to his attempt to lock away his past in a tobacco tin, a metaphor for his emotional detachment. The color red in general symbolizes passion, love, and intense emotions, but also the violence and trauma associated with slavery, particularly the blood of Seth's murdered child. Paul D's red heart is direct representation of his emotional life, particularly his capacity for love and passion, which he tries to suppress. So like, it's like his love and his passion that he tries to suppress. But like the way he was looking, he just looked traumatized and like he was dissociating, and this bitch was on top of him, hunching him and shit. And so I just feel like he was raped. He didn't look like he wanted it, but the bitch just got ghost strength or some shit, and I feel like he was raped. He wasn't even like hunching into her, like she was on top of him. And so I really just feel like he was raped. In the movie, at least, in the book, maybe not. Like there's probably more that goes into it. Like her books are big and shit, so there's probably a lot of detail that's being missed here. But in the movie, it looked like he was being raped, so we're gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with that. Because he really did seem to care about, Denver and about Setha and wanting to start a family with them and staying there and stuff like that. He didn't seem like a fucking pervert or weird or shit. He seemed like he really wanted to settle down and stop roaming the world and shit, right? So she gets her rocks off or whatever the fuck, leaves him alone. The next day, he's sweating. He's just upset. He's at work upset, dissociating and shit. And he's planning to tell Seth, right? So he meets her after work. She works in this like kitchen. She makes pies or some shit like that. And she thinks he's just picking her up from work. She's like, "Oh, I feel like a young girl again. Just you picking me up from work and everything." He's like, "Yeah." And he was like, "I need to tell you something and you might not like it." And da 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 da. So you can tell she's bracing herself because she's used to losing niggas. So she's just like, "Okay, whatever, nigga. What you got to say?" And because she says it like that, basically, he's like lies and says, "Oh, I want you to have my babies." I'm just like, oh God. I mean, like, I don't know. Like, if he had told her that this bitch was on top of him and raping him and shit, like, would she have believed him in the state that she was in? Probably not. Probably not. So she's all excited, like, "Oh, he wants to have babies with me," and blah, blah, blah. So he gets excited about this idea, this impulsive idea and shit like that. So the next day at work, he's all happy and shit, and he tells the nigga that's at work with him, like, he's the one that took Seth across the river and shit with the babies and stuff, that he's gonna have a baby with his girl, right? So this nigga, I don't know why he's been carrying this fucking piece of paper from the newspaper around for 10 years, because this shit happened 10 years ago. I don't even know why this shit hasn't disintegrated, because newspaper paper be disintegrating and shit. But like, he got the newspaper article in his pocket of her looking all crazy with a baby in her arm and all this other stuff. He's like, this isn't my Setha. This isn't my, it's not her mouth. Why would you show me? So he obviously can't read, right? So the nigga reads the article to him, right? So now he knows what happened. So he goes back to Setha's house and shows her the article. So she tells him what happens, right? So basically, she had escaped the plantation. She was in the north. She had pure freedom for 28 days. She could wake up, do what she wanted. Her kids was just laughing and happy and free in the world and everything like that. And she was slowly coming to terms with healing and being free of slavery. And then here come Mr. on his horse, this white man, the slave master, coming to get her and her kids, drag her ass back to slavery. And she just crashes the fuck out, takes her kids to the shed, and she was gonna kill them all. She was gonna kill them all, but instead of had them go back to slavery. Now, I can't say it's right, because, you know, those are her kids, and I've heard of cases back in slavery time where people have been able to fight shit like that. But like, in the mindset that she was in, and she had been raped and all sorts of shit that she had been through, she was just imagining that shit happening to her kids. Like, yeah, her sons ran away, and, you know, yeah, her daughter that she living with got some shit going on, and, you know, yeah, one of her daughters is dead and shit. But like, in her mind, anything is better than going back to that plantation where they was raping and pillaging her every fucking day, or whatever the fuck they were doing, beating on her and hanging her. Just could hang anybody at the drop of a hat. That's how her mama died. She don't even know why they hung her mama. They just hung her mama. I don't they never explained it. Maybe they explained it in the book. I don't fucking know. But I could see it. Would I do it? I don't know. I'm not in that time period. Them shits never happened to me. God, don't ever let that shit happen to me in the name of Jesus. Don't let it happen to any of us in that, because that's what Trump wants. He wants it to be like that again. And so that's his great America. That's what that is. And so, you know, Lord, don't ever let that happen to me or my people or nobody in this world. Just make it stop in the name of Jesus. Amen. Ashe. But no, like, why would you want your kids to be tortured for every day of their life? There's some things that are worse than death. And so I could understand it. I could at least understand it enough that if I were Paul D, I would understand it enough to not have abandoned her. But then at the same time, he didn't need to be there when that light-skinned bitch was crashing out like that. I don't know. I just can understand it. No, the shit they were doing to us in slavery, like, they was like cutting our limbs off and raping us and making us fuck each other and like touching on our children and whipping us and hanging us from trees. And you didn't know what was going to happen day from day. And this nigga had the audacity to, like, the slave master to call her an animal because he saw that she killed her kids, or thought she had killed all her kids, or whatever the fuck. He called her an animal and shit, and like, this nigga over here like raping and pillaging, letting his sons suck the milk out of her titties and hold her down and do all sorts of just horrific things to this woman. Like, I don't know if I can be upset at what she did. She really thought they were going to be dragged back into slavery. I don't know if I can be mad at her. I don't know if I could be mad. I haven't lived the things I've heard about slavery and what they was doing to them people and shit like that. Would I have done it? I don't know. At the threat of having to go back or have my kids be dragged back into some shit like that, I don't fucking know. I wouldn't have left her though. If I was Paul D, I would have understood and I wouldn't have left her. But he leaves. He abandons her, and he tries to do it all sneakily and shit, talking about just put my dinner to the side. I'll be back later tonight. And she just looks at him like, bitch, fuck you. I've lost worse than you. Don't sugarcoat it. If you gonna leave, nigga. Like, basically, like, if you gonna leave, nigga. Like, so he leaves, and she's left there by herself, sitting up with her kids, drinking hot milk and shit, warm milk and shit by the fire, right? And then Beloved starts humming this song that only Setha saying, because Setha made the song up and only she sang it to her kids, and she looks at Beloved and she goes, I only sang that song to my kids, I like made it up. And Setha's and Beloved's like, I know. And then she lays her head back like this, and like she's going to sleep and shit, and there's like this scar on her neck, like, you know, from where Setha cut her neck when she was a baby. You know, I don't know, like I said, I don't know. Like the thought of her kids going back to that place where they was torturing and raping and doing all, and then to have her kids sold off to who knows where so she would never see them again. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, the whole town was mad at her, talking about there has to be another way, and you know, you can't just kill your babies and all this other stuff. But like, y'all was slaves too. You gonna act like you don't know what these motherfuckers do, like, every single day? Like, you would want your kids to go back to that type of shit? Like, maybe there was another way, but at that point in time, she couldn't see another way. She was traumatized and trapped in her trauma, and all she saw was these motherfuckers about to drag her and her kids back to this evil ass place. So that's when Setha realizes that that's her baby, and she just has this euphoria moment. It's the same euphoria you get after your nigga gave you the silent treatment for a week and now decides to talk to you again, and goes and spends all her money on ribbons and toys and sweets and shit, and then she's late to work and her boss fires her and she just decides to stay fired. She didn't even try to, what do I need to work for? My baby's here. Like, girl, that's not healthy, love. You need to pay bills. Like I think the house and land is theirs. They don't gotta pay rent and shit like that. But like, they didn't have no food. Like, you was in the house with no food. So they had like a couple days of euphoric dancing around the table, eating pies and shit until all the food was gone. And then all of a sudden, Beloved, I guess the memory sparks up inside of her and she remembers her mom killing her, right? And she just looks at her mom after eating pie and shit, talking about, why did you hurt me? And then Setha tried to explain it to her, like, I was going to take us all to, and we was going to meet my mama, and we was going to be away from this place, and da-da-da-da-da. And she was like, you hurt me. And then she started crashing the fuck out. And from then on, the movie was just her crashing the fuck out in this woman's house. And Setha just going along with it, just allowing this bitch to abuse her and all sorts of shit, destroying the house. Denver's over here just like hiding out in her fucking room because this bitch over here crashing the fuck out. And then like one of the days, like, she goes to the girl's room because she keeps crying and screaming for Setha, mama, like a big ass fucking baby. I was just like, girl, this is a demon. This isn't it, love. So she goes and she tells her to shut the fuck up, and then she sees that she got her grandmother's blanket, and she was like, don't mess that up, because that's grandmother's blanket. That bitch gonna look her dead in her face and rip that shit in half and then walk out the room. Girl. And then she like, I don't know if she saw the ghost of her grandmother. I'm just gonna, because we already got this pregnant ghost, so the bitch is pregnant too by Paul D. So she walking around this big ass belly pregnant, and I guess Denver sees the ghost of her grandmother, and her grandmother's like, why don't you go outside? Why are you so scared to leave the house? Like, go outside. Like, you stop going to school, stop learning your letters, all this other stuff. Like, go outside. So Denver gets the courage to go outside, and so she goes outside and she goes to the school teacher and asks the school teacher if she got any work, anything at all that she can do for her. And then she tells her that her mom is in a bad way and they ain't got no food and all sorts of shit. So the neighborhood ladies that have been treating their mom like shit for the past 10 years starts dropping off random plates of food on the little stump outside the house, right? And I'm just like, is it like, as long as you don't need something from us, as long as you're not hitting rock bottom, we're just going to look at you like you're crazy and make you a pariah in the town? We're not going to come together as a village to help you with anything until you've hit rock bottom and you're looking crazy. Like, I don't, you know, like, I'm glad they finally did help her, but I don't like that. It's fake. It's two-faced. It's like, either you gonna help me or you not. Like, you sit up here making that's part of what pushed her into this isolative place. Like if y'all had opened your arms and understood that she snapped and did what she had to do, and no, it wasn't right, but like, would y'all have let your kids be dragged back to slavery? What would y'all have done in that situation? That's what I mean. Like, this is a whole different place. This is a whole different experience. So I can't judge when I've never been tortured every fucking day. Like, literally, not even emotionally. This is worse than even being in an abusive relationship. This is some other shit. This is you and other people being constantly tortured every fucking day, being made to do God knows what. I can't speak on it. I can't speak on it and be like, oh, she deserved to be isolated. No, she didn't, because if she hadn't been isolated like that, then maybe she wouldn't have invited the ghost. Maybe they could have exercised that shit earlier. She would have been more open to it. But no, you isolated her, and the ghost was in her house all this time, and now when it appeared in physical form, she just let that bitch in her house. So I kind of felt like it was two-faced. Maybe they just did it more for Denver because Denver's like an innocent child and shit, and she don't deserve to be treated like that. I don't fucking know. But they was leaving food, and then somehow Denver heard there was a maid job at one of the white people houses, and the maid there already knew her grandmother and all this other stuff. So she goes there, and the maid that's there is telling her that, yeah, you can come at nighttime, and then I'll be here in the daytime, and it could be a whole thing. Just give me a few days to talk the white people into it. And then Denver was just like, so what do they want me to do at night? And the maid was like, don't worry, like they was gonna do something sexual or some shit. I don't fucking know. Like, but I'm glad she asked, because I was wondering, like, what did they want her to do at nighttime? Like, why do they need a maid at nighttime? And da 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 da. So they turn out to be like as decent of a white person that they can be during that time. Like, they're still like racist and trash and all this other stuff. I don't give a fuck what you're talking about. I don't care. I don't fucking care. No, we're not gonna be like, oh, they were just nice and kind white people. No, they weren't. I don't care. They're still a part of this whole system of oppression and torture of black people. Anyways. So like she tells the maid that knew her grandmother like what was going on with her mom, and how the ghost of her sister was in the house and it was tormenting her mom, and her mom was basically catatonic at this point, just sitting in the chair like this, looking up to the sky, not moving and shit. She was like on a whole stupor and shit because this bitch was wreaking havoc in her house, right? So like she tells the maid, and then the maid goes and tells all the hoodoo church avenger ladies about what's going on and how I need to go exercise this bitch out her house, right? And they're just like, no, it's gone too far, we have to do something about it. And I'm just like, why did it have to get this bad for you to even want to help this bitch? You know what, it's fine. No, because keep the same energy then. If you don't like me, then don't like me, bitch. Oh no, because then what? Like, no, I know what she did was wrong, but at the same time I understand it. I understand. Y'all need to understand it too. Y'all was going through shit, the same shit. Like, you know what it was in slavery. You knew what it was. I don't fucking know. Let me shut up. So on the day that Denver is going for her first day at her job at Mr. Bowden's house, the name Bowden, she's waiting on the porch, right? Before she walking through the house, she goes to her mom, and her mom is in the kitchen stabbing some ice, talking and mumbling to herself and shit. And she's trying to tell her mom, like, Mom, I got a job. We gonna have money now. I'm gonna work for Mr. Bowden. And the mom is just gone. She ain't listening and shit. So, you know, I was just like, girl, get away from her before she turn around and stab you on accident. Who knows? She's not here right now. Then she walked past Beloved room. Beloved lay there propped up with her legs open, just bush everywhere, sucking on a piece of ice, just looking like she got some shit going on. And so she just staring at her. Beloved staring back. They just staring at each other like she mad at this bitch. She hate this hoe. And then she walk out the house and is waiting on the porch, and then she see all the black church lady avengers walking up the street wearing all black, and they over there singing the hymnals and doing the hoodoos and screaming and got the cymbals and all this other stuff to get this thing out her house. It was magical. I was just like, yes, somebody's gonna get this thing out this no, she need to get up out her house. She needed to get the fuck up out her house. I don't care what you're talking about. I don't know. That thing was crazy. It was, no, I don't care. She needed to move on and rest. She needed to rest. The dead need to rest in the place that is for them to rest, on the next plane of resting. Okay. And so like Oprah hears the church Avenger ladies outside singing and doing the hoodoos and the voodoos and all the stuff. And so I don't know why she takes this bitch out on the porch with no clothes on, but I think she just too far gone to really notice what's going on around her. She grabs Beloved's hand and they walk outside, and Beloved just standing there with no fucking clothes on at all. I was just like, and this is the part that I remembered in the movie. She was just standing there, her hair all fucked up, matted up and shit, and like, you ain't gonna comb that shit out, girl. It's just, yeah. And she just like they up there watching these church ladies, right, singing at them and shit. And then here come Mr. Bowden in all white, looking like the old slave master that tried to take her and her kids back to the plantation, right? So she have a conniption on the damn steps. She had put a knife in her pocket. I don't know what she was going to do with the knife. Were you going to stab the church lady Avengers? Like, what were you going to do? She takes the knife out and runs at Mr. Bowden. Mr. Bowden just sitting on his little wagon, just looking like, what the fuck? I'm surprised he didn't ride off and shit. I was just like, I would have rolled the fuck off, bitch. You had no job. He's so nice, as nice as these white people can get during that time period. Like, she still had a job after that. When she told Paul D, when he came back to town, that she had a job still at that people's house, I was just like, but he saw the bitch disappear on the steps. So that, I would have explained it as there was a ghost in my house that was haunting us. You seen the bitch disappear on the steps. So, it's gone now though. So she runs at this nigga with this ice pick, and like the black church lady Avengers just like capture her, and they praying over her, and they praying over the house. And then this bitch on the porch just spreads her arms and her legs with her bush all aglow. I don't care. Shut up. There's nothing wrong with having a hairy vagina. It's not. It's just so stark. That's all I could focus on. I was like, it's so big. Like, look at all that hair. There's nothing wrong with having. Most people have. I went to the Korean spa. It's normal. Like, it's normal to have a hairy, cooch. And I didn't know that. Like, I didn't know that most people had hairy coochies. I just, I thought we were all trimming or shaving it off, because for me it's uncomfortable. I don't like having it. It's uncomfortable. It ain't even got nothing to do with aesthetics or niggas or nothing. It's just uncomfortable because it's the same texture and thickness as the hair on my head, and I refuse to have that down there. He's like, why are you talking about? Because I don't give a fuck. Fuck you niggas. I don't care. I want to know, like, this is normal apparently. Like, I was over here with the impression, because from the 90s it made it seem with the bikini strip and all this other stuff, like they made it seem like that was the thing to do, like to shave all that shit off. So I didn't know that motherfuckers was walking around here with their coochies all hairy like that till I went to the Korean spa, and I was just like, oh, okay. I'm the odd person out. Okay, well, I'm not going to have the hair on my head in between my legs. I refuse. That's a lot of friction. It's uncomfortable. So I was just like, wow, that shit is crazy. And then she just poof, like a puff of smoke, disappears. And then there's a bunch of butterflies and shit, transition and blah, 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 and symbols and shit. And then, we skip over to Denver, and she's like she's in town with her nice little frock on, her little dress, and then here come Paul D. He's clean shaven now. He got all that shit off his neck and his face. Looks so much better without all that shit on his neck and his face. I don't care what you're talking about. He was looking like a homeless person. Danny Glover is not attractive to me like that. He just looks old, just like Morgan Freeman. It's not giving what And I'm sure to some folks, though, he's a beautiful man, and that's magical for you. And I'm sure to some folks, Morgan Freeman is a beautiful man. They just look old to me. They look old. And I don't like old looking niggas. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? I just didn't need to see his naked ass on the television screen, okay? And so he's in town and he's asking her all these questions about like her mom and was that really her sister? And she's talking about that wasn't her sister, that was a demon and shit like that. Basically, that's what she said. I don't care talking about that was a demon. And he's like, can I visit your mom? Would she be okay with that? And she's like, well, she doesn't even get out of the bed. I don't even think my mom will turn back to normal or nothing. And so he goes and visit her. And then before he leaves, Denver's just like, you can visit her, but like, don't talk mess to my mama and shit. He was like, I'm not. So he goes and visits Oprah. And Oprah just laid up in bed like, like all out of it and shit. Like this bitch done stressed her the fuck out. Like her brain cracked because of this bitch. Like, and then she says there's something about she was my everything. And then he was like, you need to be your everything. And she was like, me? And he was like, yes. And I was like, yes, tell her to breathe life into the bitch. She over here deflated and shit. She needs to be her everything. That's what I was talking about in that last video. You need to be grounded in you, bitch, because you so focused. She was so focused on this dead bitch that she left herself open and vulnerable to being manipulated because she just wanted this dead bitch to be around. And this bitch sucked the life out of her like a fucking vampire. And that's what happens when you're not rooted in yourself. Can't nobody suck the life out of you when you focus on you and what makes you happy and shit, nigga. Like, not in a selfish way. Don't go to extremes like, oh, I'm so selfish and conceited. No. But like, I come first and my comfortability comes first. And everything comes second. And in that comfortability is me wanting to enjoying making people that show up for me comfortable too. Because I enjoy that. That makes me happy. See, when you pour into yourself, you naturally just want other people to feel the goodness that you make yourself feel. It's not forced. It's not like, oh, I'm doing this because I want people to like me. It's I genuinely want you to feel the goodness that I feel inside myself. And so I want to do nice things for you. But if you show up and don't accept the nice things or make me feel bad about doing nice things for you, well, fuck you, bitch. Get the fuck out of my face. You're making me uncomfortable. I was doing nice shit for you and you was over here taking advantage of it or using me or making me feel bad about it. Get the fuck out of my face. No, just accept the kindness. Like, the fuck, I accept kindness, like, it is what it is. And so, like, look what happens when you so focused on shit outside of you that you leave yourself blind spots and shit to the shit that you really need to be focusing on. Like the fact that bitch is manipulate you and you need to get an exorcist up in this bitch and get rid of this hoe. Oh God, I hated this movie so much. It was so triggering. I was upset and bothered, and whoever commented in that last video talking about it was traumatic. I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. I didn't know what the fuck. I was 11 and my brain only held on to the things that it could comprehend, and then it made it funny. I'm never watching this movie again. I did not go into this trying to watch a slavery movie and a traumatic slavery movie, and the weight of the trauma on this woman and her family was just immense. And the things that were done to her and to the people she cared about was immense. And like, even though like her husband, like she was holding on to this anger because he never met up with her and escaped with her, when in reality Paul D talking about how her husband had been in the loft of the barn when they was sucking on her titties and she was like, he just sit there and didn't beat these motherfuckers. There were like 10, 15 people in that motherfucker and they were all white. And then I love how Paul D explained it as best he could. He was like, men aren't hammers. We're not axes. We're not tools. We're people. And we can only withstand so much. And like, he wasn't able to save you, love. Like, it would have been a massacre. And maybe you up here ready to die for shit. Everybody ain't ready to die for shit. And so instead, his brain cracked. He dissociated, and then he was just gone mentally. He was that's what it did to him. Because Paul D said like the last time he saw that nigga, he was sitting by the fountain. They didn't have to even chain him up anymore. He was sitting by the fountain mumbling to himself. Just that shit fucked him up. He was gone. Men have feelings. Men have feelings, and they're not always in the position to save us, especially if they don't have the strength, the numbers, or the emotional stability to do it. And we got to be okay with that sometimes. Like they ain't always ready to like physically fight somebody for us. Especially if the person is bigger than them, if the person got a weapon, if there's more of them, then the best they might be able to do is just get us out of the situation. And that's acknowledge that we went through something, comfort us and through it and things like that. Sometimes that's the best they can do in that situation. Not every nigga's gonna be a fighter. And what was he gonna fight in that situation? There were literally like at least 10, 15 people, white men in that barn. At least 4 of them was holding her down while the 2 niggas was sucking the milk out her titties and shit. And he had to sit there and watch his wife being molested and raped, and it was just him by himself. He probably froze. And it is what it is. And then she realized that's why he never met with her, because his brain cracked in half and he couldn't handle it. And she had to learn how to be okay with that. And it, no, yeah, I want to be protected. Yeah, I want to protect her. Sometimes it's just emotional, though. Sometimes the protection comes as comfort and hugs and, making me soup and rubbing my feet and shit. Like, protecting doesn't, like, making money and paying bills and shit. Protection doesn't always mean fighting. It doesn't always mean, like, physically putting yourself in harm's way to protect me. Like, if you can't do it and I logically can see that you're not capable of doing that, I'm not going to shame you for it. Like, I don't want you to get killed, nigga. Like, maybe the protection is that we both put our heads together and brainstorm how to escape this situation and shit. Like, it is what it is. Like, and I'm okay with that. Like, I am. Like, you have to be logical about shit and see people's humanity, even men, because you want men to see your humanity, but you don't want to see their humanity. Like, women objectify men either as monsters, as tools, as the Prince Charming, instead of just seeing that nigga for who he is. If you just saw that nigga for who he was, you would see, oh, he don't love himself enough, I can't be with him, or he's loving me to the capacity that he's capable of loving me, and either that's enough for me or it's not enough for me. Like, so it is what it is. Like, I got it. I like how Paul D explained it, because men are just people. They're just humans with the same emotional capacity that we have. Yeah, they got testosterone and they might get a little bit more angrier than we get sometimes, but like, they still the same emotional capacity that we have, no matter what society and the patriarchy says about them not having emotions and emotions being weak and shit like that. That's why they out here crashing out and all extra emotional now, because they not embracing their emotions and understanding who they are as a person, because niggas and pick me bitches is out here telling these niggas that it's weak to have emotions and shit. Like, nah, nigga, just feel your emotions, feel your feelings. It's fine. It's okay to cry. It's fine. It's okay to cry. So yeah, that was my review of Beloved. I don't know what to tell y'all. I was totally blindsided by this movie because I had no recollection of what this movie was about, really, and I compartmentalized it in my 11-year-old mind as, this is funny. Like, look at this bitch, she's crazy. Like, and that's all I remembered about the movie up until this day. And now I'm just shocked and appalled. I don't like this movie. I was traumatized. I'm never watching this movie again. I'm not reading the book. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not reading the fucking book. Don't tell me to read the book. I'm not reading the book. And really, truly, surely, I'm going to find something more lighthearted next week. Something lighthearted, maybe something fantasy, maybe something sci-fi. Maybe I'll do Chronicle. I've been thinking about that movie a lot. I really like Chronicle. You know, them little teenagers that found that rock underneath the ground. And then they got superpowers. And then mainly the white teenager were crashing out, killing people for no reason. And I just sat here and waited for a sequel to that bitch, and it was never a sequel. Now all them niggas is old, and I just was like, well, maybe they can just like remake it, but like as a sequel and have new characters or some shit. Like, they could do it. They could remake it with the same actors, but like, they were just all over the place with their powers when the movie ended, to the point where even if they made it with the same actors and the actors are older and shit, there's so much in between that we would be missing out on and understanding how they learn how to control their powers, and this be in this sequel where they're all like damn near 40 and shit, are 40. And I don't know how they would do a sequel with the same actors as grown-ups. Like, I don't know. Like, unless I'm not watching no AI movie, so I don't know. At least not like as far as I'm aware that it's AI. So, you know, I don't know. Maybe I'll do that. I've been thinking about that because I was thinking earlier today. I was like, you know, what if I had superpowers? I would probably be like that nigga in Chronicle, the little white one that, like, when the car had cut them off in the road and he got pissed off and he swiped the car and he swiped it too hard and the car flipped up. That would be me. That's why we can't have power. Like, I believe that our souls have superpowers and shit that we don't have access to because we're too emotional and there's something wrong with us as human beings to have access to that kind of power. And Chronicle perfectly exemplifies that shit. What happens when regular people, they do stupid shit, they killing random ass people and shit, they awaken their sociopathic, you know, intentions, and they start murdering motherfuckers because they're crazy and shit and stuff like that. That's what would happen. I was like, if I had teleportation powers, I would never exercise. I would get really fat and I would just be popping up at places just because. If I had telekinesis and could move shit with my mind, I'd probably do what that nigga did and push a car off the road for cutting me off just on accident. He didn't. I don't remember him meaning to do that. I think he just wanted to nudge it, and the car flipped over and fell off a cliff and shit. Yeah, do Chronicle. I like that movie. I'll watch that movie again. That was a good ass fucking movie, and they never had a sequel. That and the 10th Kingdom is what's gonna always piss me off, that they never had a sequel. Like, the 10th Kingdom started it all off. Like, what is that movie? What is that show on that Disney did? Once Upon a Time. That shit set off Once Upon a Time. The 10th Kingdom is a magnificent piece of art. Like, I even bought the DVD just so I could have like the actual like movie and shit, just cause like I wanted it. No, like, that shit set off all the fantasy shows. The intro of that shit, like, that was one of the last few like miniseries movies that they showed on television, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, maybe in like the mid 90s too. They were showing these miniseries on like regular network television, and it would be these fantasy movies and shit, and it would be like 3 or 4 episodes that played on different nights and shit, and that was and one of them was the 10th Kingdom, and I love that fucking movie, and I sat and waited for years for a sequel. Like, the way it ended, it needed a sequel, and they never. And now I think like, they might be dead and some shit, like they old and shit. Like, we're never getting a sequel to the 10th Kingdom. We're never getting a sequel. And the budget that they used to make that movie, they even had the nigga from Married with Children in that motherfucker. He was like a troll and shit, nigga. Like, it was amazing. It was a magical feat. Those are like the only 2 movies that I am still pissed off about not having a fucking sequel. And I'm so upset. But Chronicle has 1 black person in it, so you know what, 1 black lead, so maybe I'll do that, because I've been thinking about it and having superpowers and what I would do with superpowers and shit. So maybe I'll do Chronicle, because 10th Kingdom ain't got no black people in it. I think one of the troll ladies is black, and we're not doing, I don't care. She's like a side character. Like, she's like a side character to the side character. She's not even like one of the main trolls and shit. No, it doesn't count. I don't care. Chronicle, actually, one of them little teenage niggas is like black and shit. So like, that means technically I could do the Craft too. Maybe I'll do the Craft. I just feel like they didn't show that black bitch enough. Maybe yes they did. She just didn't talk as much as the other girls when like they were in a group together. Maybe, yep, that means I could do the Craft. You know, maybe the Craft. I love the Craft. The Craft is fun. That put me into this whole trajectory. Like, I remember when that movie came out, and like me and my friends like bought witchcraft books, and we're trying to practice like stiff as a board and try to make each other float and shit. So it's between it might be between the Chronicle and the Craft, or maybe the Chronicle is like, no, they said that Tupac movie is like the Craft, but that was just because Tupac was crashing out like that black haired girl on the Craft. That's why. But I don't want to do that because that's more like trauma. Like, and maybe I'll do that Tupac, the movie with Tupac that's kind of like the Craft. I'll put it. I don't remember the name. I'll put it somewhere later because I'm tired of these traumatic ass black movies and shit. It's been 2 weeks of trauma. I don't feel like it. I don't care. So the Chronicle, the Craft are like some other shit. If I see some shit that's interesting and change my mind, and it might be a surprise. So that's where my head is right now. But let me know what you thought about Beloved. You know, were you like me and saw this shit when you was a kid and didn't know what the fuck was going on and dissociated most of the movie, and except for the part where this light-skinned bitch was acting crazy and messing up this bitch house? Or did you fully understand when you watched it what was going on and was just as traumatized as I am right now? Like, literally, I just want to go lay down and go to sleep because that was horrible. I hated it. Like, all of it. It was just, they held her down and squished the milk out of her titties. Like, what are you doing? What are y'all doing? I'm tired. I just, I hate it. I hated it so much. Just goes into the back of my mind. I'm about to go watch me some Love Island. I missed it. Like, y'all been watching that shit, and like, it just lets me know, just keeps on reminding me, never let a nigga make you crash out in public. You hurt my feelings. You will not know the depths of how much you've hurt my feelings. You will never know. I'll cry and scream and gnash my teeth at home in private, but you will never see me crash. Because no, look at what's going on with these bitches. They crashing out on the show because of these niggas acting crazy or love bombing them in the beginning and then pulling back. And then you don't love bomb people because you don't know if somebody's a thin line between love and hate. They just waiting 1 second to they just need 1 little trigger to make them crash the fuck out. That's why you don't love bomb motherfucker. Either you like them or you don't like them. Either you're going to set boundaries with them from jump or you're not going to set boundaries with them from jump. But you need to pick a lane and stick with it and shit. You don't back and forth motherfuckers and shit because you don't know where they're at mentally. And now they're crashing out and looking crazy in front of America. And what I've learned from this is that nobody gives a shit about the women and their crash out like they're supposed to. They call you crazy. They try to make it seem like there's something wrong with you. All sorts of things. And except for the close circle of people that you have around you that genuinely care about you, everybody will look at you like you're a fucking psychopath and gaslight you like you're there's something wrong with you for being sad. This person said that they cared about you in the beginning and was showing up for you and was telling you that they didn't want to be with any other bitch on this island except for you. And then all of a sudden they start pulling back from you, acting like there's something wrong with you and shit like that. And then most bitches would just, quietly crash out, or it wouldn't be that big of a deal because it's only been about like 2 weeks and shit. But some bitches ain't there yet, and so some of them have this humongous crash out in front of everybody and look crazy. And I just feel like in my spirit that was me in my 20s, and now that I've seen a representation of what I look like, oh God, you will never see me look like that again. I will disappear from your life first and act like you don't exist first before you will ever see me crash out like I crashed out in my 20s, crying and screaming and sending 20-30 text messages and voicemails and writing 3 or 4 page letters and shit and emailing it to niggas. You will never see me act like that again. You hurt my feelings. I'm leaving. You hurt my feelings. I am walking the fuck on, bitch. And it depends on what you do, because I like to at least try and have a conversation about it. But like, if I try to have a conversation about it and you're still doubling down and hurting my feelings, I'm disappearing from your life and you're never seeing me again. That's my crash out. That's all you're gonna see is me disappearing from your life. You're blocked on everything. I'm never talking to you again. You do not exist to me anymore. And I'm crying on the couch at home for however long it takes to get the fuck over you. And that's the end of that. No, nigga, you will never see me act like that bitch Huda or Amaya. None of them bitches that was crashing out on that motherfucking show. You're never seeing me act like that in public ever again. No. I don't care what you're talking about. I don't care what you're talking about. I don't care what you're talking about. You're never gonna see that from me ever again. I'm an emotional bitch, and I had emotional problems in my 20s, and I have went to therapy and worked through that shit enough to validate the emotions. The emotions are real. They come from a real place, and learn how to deal with them in a proper positive way. And that proper positive way is, I'm going to act like you don't exist anymore. If I try to talk to you and you're not fixing the problem and you're doubling down and you're trying to gaslight me, then I'm not going to interact with you. You don't exist anymore. I'm just going to be like, oh, okay, you don't want to be with me? Okay, cool. Cold as a cucumber, nigga. Like, okay, cool. And 9 times out of 10, because you didn't give a reaction, that nigga will crash out. But you already said what you need to say. I already said what I needed to say. You can crash out by your motherfucking self. I gotta go. I don't care. That's where you gotta get to. You don't let these niggas make you crash out in public, bitch, because nobody will care and you will look fucking crazy. Crash out in private. Crash out with your friends and your family that care about you. Don't crash out in fucking public where people can fucking see you. Because they will talk shit about you and they will not give a fuck, and they will not recognize that it was this nigga the whole time that was pushing you and pushing you and pushing you to crash the fuck out. They will think it's you. You're the problem. You're the loudest one in the room. You're the only one crying. You're the only one screaming. You're the problem in their eyes. Don't let these niggas make you crash out. And that's what I'm going to leave you with. I hope you enjoyed this review. Later days.